Hi everyone, it's Samita. This video is part 3 of my female pattern hair loss series. It's all about dietary and lifestyle changes that you can start implementing today that will help you reverse and improve your female pattern hair loss in the long run. Let's get started. Thank you so much for watching the previous videos and giving me feedback on them. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't watched them yet, please do go back. Part 1 is about mechanisms and causes of female pattern hair loss. Part 2 is all about the natural and conventional treatments that are available for female pattern hair loss. So as I said in the previous 2 videos, it's really important that you try to figure out why you're having androgen excess. So try to figure out the root causes of that. 25% of your androgens are made from the ovaries, 25% are made from your adrenals, and the rest are converted from androstenedione, which is also 50% from the ovaries and 50% from the adrenals. So you do really have to figure out, where are your excess androgens coming from? I highly recommend that you pick up this book, 8 Steps to Reverse PCOS. So borrow it from a library or buy it. And she's got some really neat quizzes in here in the beginning of the book that can help you figure out, based on your symptoms, where is your androgen excess coming from. I believe Dr. Fiona McCulloch also has this on her website, so I will leave a link in the description below where you can do those quizzes. If you are ovary dominant, if your androgens are coming from your ovaries, then there's a good chance that you're insulin resistant. I would recommend doing a lab test, so ordering a 2-hour glucose insulin challenge. The reason why you shouldn't only do fasting insulin, fasting glucose, is because it doesn't give you a whole picture of your insulin resistance. It doesn't show you how your insulin and glucose are responding to a glucose challenge. What you're given is a 75-gram dose of glucose, you drink it, and then they're going to take blood from you before the test, half an hour after, 1 hour after, and then 2 hours after. And then you can kind of look at the pattern that's happening and how your insulin is responding versus how your glucose is responding. You should definitely work with a qualified healthcare practitioner who's able to look at these values and figure out, pinpoint where things are wrong and whether you do have insulin resistance. If you are insulin resistant, you gain weight predominantly around the abdomen. You tend to have a waist that is 35 inches or more. You tend to crave sugar a lot. You struggle with weight loss. You have cravings for carbohydrate. Don't feel full easily and eat too much in one sitting. A history in your family of diabetes. Dark velvety patches in the folds of your skin. This is called acanthosis nigricans. You may have skin tags, you may have a fatty liver. You also have symptoms of hypoglycemia, so if you don't eat for a period of time, say 5-6 hours, then you tend to get shaky or irritable or dizzy. Those are all signs of insulin resistance. The other pathway is from the adrenals, and so that has to do more with stress. It could be psychological stress, physical stress, emotional stress. These all contribute. You have experienced extreme stress in the past 5 to 8 years. Say you lost a loved one, you had a really traumatic experience, you went through very intensive schooling, you just had a baby. These are all stressful times and they can definitely impact your adrenals. Perhaps you don't get enough sleep or you have insomnia issues. Perhaps you have some mental health issues, anxiety or depression. Heart palpitations, you get irritated easily and you have mood swings, low blood pressure, dizziness when you stand up, you tend to overwork and not take enough time to relax and practice self-care. I definitely do this a lot and it's a problem. If you've taken steroids, so corticosteroids, cortisone, pregnenolone, any of these things, this can also interfere with your adrenal function. If you gain weight around the abdominal area, again, which is similar to insulin resistance, so these can both impact the weight gain around your abdominal area, because if your adrenals are overproducing cortisol, then that cortisol will cause your body to deposit a lot of abdominal fat because it thinks that your body is under a time of severe stress and it needs to pack on the weight so that you can survive famines and starvation. That's how it works. If you've had an eating disorder in the past, which is something I've had, I spoke about this in my video, my PCOS story, which I will link up here in the description below. I have had a history with anorexia and orthorexia, which definitely contributed to my PCOS getting worse. If you have a low libido, you feel weak. If you feel very tired in the afternoon between 3 and 5 p.m. when you should be feeling energized, and if you have a high DHEA-S in your blood work, so have your doctor order that for you, and it has to be interpreted based on the reference values for your age category. You can also have your cortisol levels checked, so you can do a salivary cortisol test throughout the day. So take salivary cortisol samples and then see how the rhythm is. So ideally, it should be high in the morning and then come back down, and there are reference values, ranges, optimal ranges that you should be in. If it's a lot higher, then you're probably experiencing adrenal hyperactivity. And if it's a lot lower, then you're experiencing adrenal fatigue. If your adrenals are hyperactive and you're producing a lot of cortisol, that can also contribute to insulin resistance. And so it can be almost like this positive feedback loop where you are stressing out your adrenals and then your adrenals are hyperactive, and that's contributing to insulin resistance, and the insulin resistance is also stressful for your adrenals, and it just keeps going around and around in a circle. And you can see how disorders like PCOS and symptoms like female pattern hair loss can then develop and manifest. Typically after a time of adrenal hyperactivity, so your adrenals are producing so much cortisol, and eventually your adrenals are like, you know what, we're done. Let's just not produce much cortisol at all. Go seek a qualified healthcare practitioner that can help you with that. My naturopath is a great resource for me, and she can help me out with that and kind of tell me what's going on with my adrenals and my ovaries and what's happening. So again, for lab tests, assess your free testosterone, total testosterone, assess your DHEA-S for your adrenals, assess your cortisol levels over the day, so see what that curve looks like. And then you can also test your insulin resistance using that 2-hour insulin glucose challenge. And finally, I do want to talk about 2 more tests that I think are very important. Number 1 is ferritin, so that assesses your iron storage. You do need adequate stored iron for your hair to stay in the anagen growth phase. And studies have shown that women who have a serum ferritin of less than 70 tend to have increased hair shedding. So you definitely want to have your ferritin level to be at least 80 or above to make sure that you're supporting your hair growth and reducing the shedding. If you do find that your ferritin is too low, 70 or below, then you may have to play around with your diet a little bit, try to find ways to incorporate a little bit more heme iron, so whether it's in meat or organ meats or leafy greens, and then finding ways to better absorb them, so maybe tackling some digestive issues or adding some vitamin C onto your spinach and dark leafy greens to help with the absorption. It's also really important to consider your thyroid function. So have your doctor order a full thyroid panel. So TSH, free T4, free T3, reverse T3, anti-TPO, and anti-TG. So this will give you a huge overall picture of how your thyroid is functioning. The reason why you want to get all of this is because TSH, the one that doctors order the most, may not be enough to show you whether or not your thyroid is functioning properly. You also want to be able to interpret these based on an optimal range versus based on the normal reference values. So definitely, again, consult a healthcare practitioner for that. And often with these values, you have to interpret them based on your individual and based on the rest of your history. You can also look at ratios between free T3 and reverse T3 and look at that. I'm probably going to do a video about this in the future about thyroid issues, so whether it's hypothyroid or hyperthyroid. and also Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune disease that is the most common form of hypothyroidism. If you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, there's a good chance that you have some thyroid issues. They're very much interconnected, so I wasn't surprised at all when I found that I had some hypothyroid stuff going on, and that's probably also contributing to my female pattern hair loss. The reason why low thyroid functioning can contribute to it is because it decreases the production of sex hormone binding globulin, which is used to bind up testosterone. If you don't have enough of the sex hormone binding globulin, your testosterone will more likely be converted to DHT and do more damage to your hair follicles. And so now that we've gone over the main root causes of female pattern hair loss, and we've also gone over the special considerations, ferritin level and thyroid function, then now we can talk about what exactly can you do in your life and your diet right now to help to reverse female pattern hair loss by addressing those root causes. If you do have insulin resistance based on the symptoms that I've described earlier, and or a test that you have completed, the 2-hour insulin glucose challenge test, then you can go ahead and proceed, start making some dietary and lifestyle changes. The first thing to do is to definitely change your diet. So a lower carbohydrate diet is crucial, I think. I do have a video called What I Eat in a Day for PCOS, and I have linked it up here and down in the description below. You can definitely check that out to see how I eat to help reverse my insulin resistance. I eat a low carbohydrate breakfast always. I don't eat any refined carbohydrates. I don't eat any sugar, any added sugar. I mostly stick to whole foods. I make sure to eat plenty of vegetables and fibers and healthy fats. I limit the amount of starch that I take, but I still eat starch because it's very important to keep my adrenals healthy and my thyroid healthy, and not to get it to be too stressed out, because a low carbohydrate intake can also be stressful for your thyroid and your adrenals. Just being more wary of what you're putting in, staying away from refined carbohydrates and sugars that definitely impact your insulin a lot, and also making sure that you have enough protein at every meal, enough healthy protein to stabilize your blood sugar and insulin as well. Exercise is also very helpful for reducing insulin resistance and just balancing your hormones in general. I recommend high intensity interval training. It's been shown to be very good for balancing hormones for women and for men. It can be great for losing fat. You can also include weight training, resistance training. Sleep is so incredibly important for everything, for insulin resistance and also for healing your adrenals. Making sure that you're getting enough sleep, so at least 7, 8, you probably need more, especially if your adrenals are dysfunctional. You probably need like up to 10 hours of sleep. You may need to nap during the day. And also making sure that you're having a good circadian rhythm. So the circadian rhythm is your sleep-wake cycle. When the sun comes up, ideally you should be awake, and then when the sun goes down, you should be getting ready for bed. I try to wake up around 7 a.m. and then I go to sleep around 10 o'clock. So I have that consistent 9 hours, 8 to 9 hours of sleep, at least 9 hours in bed. Make sure that my circadian rhythm is set properly. A lot of the times, if you have adrenal issues and insulin resistance, you may have insomnia. This is something that I have experienced the past couple of months, and it's been pretty debilitating, and so I'm working hard on resetting my circadian rhythm. We'll talk about this in a future video probably. Making sure you have good sleep hygiene and that you're going to bed at a consistent time and waking up at a consistent time. Blacking out your room when you're asleep and staying away from blue light before you go to sleep, and having a good strong dose of blue light in the morning when you wake up. So going out for a nice walk, opening up your curtains, getting that blue light exposure is really helpful. There are many natural supplements that you can use to improve your insulin resistance. I talked about this in a previous video that I will link up here and in the description below. Inositol is incredibly important. I take Myo-inositol about a teaspoon in the morning and a teaspoon at night. I find this is really helpful for improving your insulin sensitivity. Also, take berberine. Berberine is kind of like a natural version of metformin. I have never taken it, but it has helped a lot of people, but do talk to a healthcare practitioner about that one because it can have some side effects, especially for your gut microbiome. Glucomannan, which is a soluble fiber extract. Essentially, for the more fiber you're eating, the better it is for insulin resistance because it is helping you to heal your gut and it's helping to slow down the glucose that is being absorbed and being shuttled into the bloodstream. So your body is digesting that glucose slower, absorbing it slower, and therefore your insulin isn't spiking as high. When it comes to taking fibers like inulin or glucomannan, do take it slow because it can cause a lot of bloating and gas. Your body and your gut microbiome need time to adjust to those higher fiber levels, so take your time with it. Vitamin D is very important for improving insulin sensitivity. Studies have shown that lower levels of vitamin D or suboptimal levels of vitamin D can contribute to insulin resistance. If you have a deficiency in chromium, you're more likely to develop insulin resistance. You may want to take a supplement anywhere from 200 to 400 micrograms a day. Alpha lipoic acid, and there's cinnamon that you can add to a lot of your foods. So like if you're drinking smoothies or eating apples or anything like that, just add a pinch of cinnamon because cinnamon has been shown to reduce your blood sugar levels. When it comes to the adrenals and healing the adrenals, it's a long process. It requires a lot of patience, a lot of self-care, a lot of self-love, a lot of support. One of the things that connects with the insulin resistance part is that if your blood sugar is high and your insulin levels are high, that can be also stressful for your adrenals. So if you're working on the whole blood sugar insulin part, then you're also helping your adrenals. So that kind of goes in hand, which is great. Sleep is incredibly important for healing your adrenals. If you're not getting enough rest and recovery, you're not getting the repair, the detox, the antioxidants when you're sleeping, then your adrenals will not be able to heal. So sleep honestly is the best medicine. There's so much research coming out about how important sleep is and how a lack of sleep, even if it's an hour of deprivation or even if it's a delayed sleep phase, that can significantly impact your risk of a number of different chronic diseases and also your mental and overall physical health. And especially if you're healing your adrenals, then sleep has to be a priority. In my journey to recovering from adrenal fatigue, I am taking adaptogens. It has been my best friend. Rhodiola, eleuthero, ashwagandha, these are all great adaptogens to take. You can take holy basil as well, and all it does is it helps your body to adapt to stresses better so that it can take off some of that, that stress that's on your adrenals. If for any reason your adrenal dysfunction is also contributing to sleep issues, then things get a little bit more difficult. You have to address the insomnia stuff, which I will definitely make another video about. I feel like I'm creating a huge list of videos that I have to make in the future. It takes a long time to recover 100%, and it takes a lot of different practices, sleep hygiene, improving your circadian rhythm, resetting your melatonin, working on your anxiety and your meditation practice, mindfulness. It takes so much. So if you are having insomnia issues because of your adrenal dysfunction and high cortisol levels, then I will hopefully help with that in the future as well. Because your adrenals are so sensitive to stress, you need to make sure that you're supporting those adrenals. And one of the ways to do that is by taking fish oils. Fish oil is an antioxidant, so taking about a teaspoon a day of a high quality fish oil would be incredible. L-Theanine, which is found in green tea, can also help to improve your mood and help to reduce stress and again blunt that response, that stress response in the adrenals. Myo-inositol is not only excellent at improving insulin sensitivity, it's also great for mitigating stress. So taking inositol is going to be so helpful for both sides of the equation. I also highly recommend taking magnesium. This has been so incredible for me. I take 1 full scoop of magnesium citrate that I talked about in my PCOS supplements video. You can also take magnesium glycinate, that's a good one as well, or magnesium malate. It will help a lot with stress because magnesium is helpful for reducing the stress response and so many other functions of the body. And also, if your body is super stressed out, your body is going to dump magnesium. So you've got to make sure that you replenish that. If you are having anxiety and depression, then there's a good chance that you might be deficient in B vitamins. So taking a good active B complex can be helpful. And finally, lifestyle changes. So exercise again. If your adrenals are so fatigued, so stressed out, it might not be the best time for you to be doing heavy weightlifting or strenuous cardio activities. Instead, perhaps you might want to do a lot of walking, gentle yoga, maybe qigong, ways to incorporate meditation and mindfulness in your daily life would be great. And when you're moving along with that, just like to put on a nice song and just dance and feel the rhythm and the beat and like listen to music that soothes you, that keeps you grounded is wonderful. I do a meditation practice that I try to keep up with every day. Sometimes I don't have enough time to do like a full 20 minutes or whatever, but I try to like at least fit in 5 minutes a day. Like at least you've got 5 minutes a day, if not 1 minute a day. Just start meditating, close your eyes, do breathing exercises, focus on your breath. Prayer, of course, if you are spiritual, religious, then praying to God and asking for support and guidance, and having good connections, relationships, and friendships, really reaching out to people that can help you, especially if you feel like you're isolated, if you are the only one out there having this issue. Female pattern hair loss, like I said, is so incredibly stressful sometimes and can be so upsetting. Practicing self-care and trying to help improve your self-esteem. I know it's so much easier said than done, especially when you're having hair falling out, and that can really take a dig on your self-esteem. But trying to tell yourself, like trying to be grateful for the hair that you do have. Like I try to tell myself like, oh, I love you, you're beautiful, I'm so happy to have you. And also recognizing that there are a lot of arbitrary social ideals out there, ideals that are perpetrated by social media and by advertisements and by like companies that are trying to sell a specific product to a woman and tell you, oh, you're gonna look so much more beautiful with this. Like bullshit. Thin hair, like why is thin hair not beautiful? Why not? It's very easy to manage. Like I wash my hair and I leave it and I air dry it and it dries so quickly and that's it. And I can do lots of stuff. Like I like to put braids in my hair. I like to put like head scarves in my hair. There's so much you can do and there's so many ways to love your hair, and it takes time. But you just have to be like, you know what? I love the hair that I have and I know that it's going to get better from here. I know that I'm doing everything that I can. I'm trying my best to grow my hair back. And it's probably gonna take a long time, but in the meantime, I'm gonna enjoy what I have. If you found this video helpful, please leave a thumbs up. Please check out my other videos and subscribe so that you get notified of my new videos. Again, thanks for dropping by. Love you guys so much. Bye.